views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio with your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer. Get ready to shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in these modern times. Bring purpose to your life through practical spirituality and add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Spirit Fire Radio. We are so happy you are joining us. And when I say we, I mean myself and my delightful co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Steve. Great to be with you.
You too. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. Feeling really excited about this conversation.
Wonderful. We've had some great shows on balance. I've really enjoyed them. They've gone so fast because I find that the material and the thoughts that arise and the points are so juicy. So I look forward to continuing. We're going to talk about balance as stability as we wrap up this month on balance. It's just been a delight. But before that, Dorothy, let's talk about this beautiful balance that we have achieved in our cooperative, co-creative endeavor that is Spirit Fire Radio. This project is a collaboration, as I said, between the School for Esoteric Studies and Spirit Fire. Dorothy, do you want to tell listeners a bit about the School for Esoteric Studies?
Yes, thank you, Steve. The School for Esoteric Studies provides esoteric discipleship training for persons with a spiritual practice that want to deepen that practice. And we do it through meditation, study, and service. You can find out more about us at esotericstudies.net. And I just want to mention that a couple of years ago, we were reflecting on goodwill and the fact that unfortunately, sometimes the dynamic between spiritually focused groups appears to be more one of competition than of actual cooperation and goodwill. And so we decided to consciously set out to collaborate with other organizations. And we were absolutely delighted when Spirit Fire said that we would love to collaborate with you. And this radio program is a first in what I hope is a series of collaborations. And if any of our listeners, if any of you belong to organizations that would also like to collaborate with us, please get in touch. Again, you can find information about the School for Esoteric Studies at esotericstudies.net.
Wow, thanks so much, Dorothy. Indeed, it has been a delightful collaboration, and Spirit Fire is an educational nonprofit. We're focused on teaching people about the importance of consciousness in everyday life and in bringing forward awareness through study, meditation, and service. Spirit Fire owns a beautiful meditative retreat center in Western Mass. So spiritfire.com, you can learn more about our programs and the practice of living awareness, which is our own meditation practice. It's an online practice. It's free, 14 steps. We're about to begin a brand new round in a couple of weeks. So if you're interested in meditation, if you're new to meditation, please, by all means, go to spiritfire.com and click on meditation and join our practice. It's a wonderful way to learn to meditate. And Dorothy, isn't that funny? You know, that spiritual organizations can often find that they are in competition with each other. That sounds like it just couldn't be so. But it's a fact. And I was just at an amazing conference. We mentioned it on last week's show a couple weeks ago, and there was a lovely gentleman there that was talking about the light of the soul. And when the light of the soul shines, it's like finding the perfect scenario for your tomato garden, that it receives this beautiful sunlight. But what happens is the weeds grow just as quickly as the tomato. Sometimes we need to really look at ourselves, and we need to take a look at the weeds and get rid of that which wasn't intended. If we planted a tomato garden, well, the weeds are going to grow too, and you've got to really find the quickest route to your true intentions and the tomato plant. But it's been a wonderful, Dorothy, I have found personally a delightful co-creation Spirit Fire Radio. And I find that each month as we move from topic to topic, we really both find, a beautiful balance between what each of our sort of what the teachings that each of our organizations bring forward and our own two minds bring together. And it's just been lovely. And collaboration and co-creation is just a beautiful way to, acknowledge our oneness. So it's been a delight. So Dorothy, balance and stability.
Yes. I have a quote to start us off, Steve.
Oh, hooray.
It's from Thomas Merton. He writes, "Happiness is not a matter of intensity, but of balance, order, rhythm, and harmony." And I thought that was really interesting, the equating of balance with happiness. And I just want to comment that when we think about stability, it's very easy to tip over into thinking of stability as no change, everything staying exactly the same, a kind of inertia. But that's not actually what stability is all about, and especially when we equate it with balance, we know that it is those continuous learnings and adjustments that create the sense of stability.
And I like the word rhythm with that too. That's beautiful because it also suggests movement, that we don't confuse stability with stagnation. And I don't believe we mentioned it last week, but I am always so inspired by astrology. And I just would love to say that there are what called the decanates, and it's where each sign of the zodiac can be divided into 3 10-degree divisions, so that you've got 360 degrees, and planets are related to each one of those. So Libra, we're in the sign of Libra. There are 3 planets that are associated with these. They're called, the decanates of Libra, and that's Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. And I find it really interesting in what you just said, because Jupiter is the biggest planet. It's sort of associated with largesse, with boundlessness, with very big. And Saturn is associated with restriction, with coming together, sort of cutting loose that which doesn't apply or isn't in order, won't allow for order. And so you get this large to small and large to small. And then Mercury is in the middle, where it is about movement. Mercury is the smallest planet. So I see that along with that quote of balance and order and rhythm and harmony as movement, and this idea of not standing still, but being able to bring everything in and reduce it down, creating a rhythm. It kind of reminds me of the breath.
Yes. Would you like to say more about that?
Well, yes, like this idea of the big picture and then refining, as we it's invocation and evocation. So it's always this balancing and process of that which is giving and that which is receiving. And we certainly know that when you pay attention to the breath and you allow for that space for the inhale and then give equal space for the exhale, and even allow for that beautiful space in between, that pause, that interlude between the inhale and the exhale. And we talked about that last week with balance, that it's not just one side and the other side, but it's this beautiful, rich space in between. When you combine all 3 of those, which is the large could be seen as the bringing in, and then the space in between as that which exists as moves from one to the other, and then Saturn as this sort of letting go of what's not necessary anymore. When we really focus on the breath in that way, by doing breath work or just conscious breathing, we'll notice that our nervous system balances out. Our sympathetic balances with our parasympathetic, the fight or flight with the rest digest, and it brings our nervous system to a place of ease, lower stress, it's why so much meditation relies on the breath. It just brings balance to the whole system, the mind, body, spirit, all of it.
Thank you, Steve. That's beautiful. Really
Sure.
beautiful.
Sure. So, Dorothy, I wanted to mention, because we were talking so much last week about politics and about false equivalencies, and it really made me think of the ways that it really is about vibration. It's really about a balance and a harmony and a rhythm of vibration, and it makes me think of this idea of marching for peace. I've been thinking about that lately. This meditating on peace. As we hear so much, some of us are so nervous about the state of the global politics, and it almost seems like, are we edging toward, really, hopefully, I don't even want to say it out loud, but, a disorder in the world. And I realized that, this idea of marching for peace, in a sense, we sort of insert instability into that. When we're fighting for peace, we are offering this forceful resistance to the coherent vibration of peace. And it feels like there's resistance or separation to that. For me, it's really about, can I find a space in the vibration of peace and well-being, and can I live that? Can I be a point of attraction that through my living peacefully in every way, I create a point of attraction for those who exist otherwise, in separation? Can they find the value in that and work toward that process of a peaceful way of being? So just thinking a bit about that, of like resisting war and calling that peace. I think it's really about creating that stability and balance and harmony within yourself, and living that in every day. In a way, for me, that is what is contributing to peace.
I would agree, Steve, and I'd like to share with you and our listeners a couple of quotes that I found very interesting when I was working on a presentation on harmlessness, which we've talked about before. And these come from esoteric astrology and also the externalization of the hierarchy, which are two of the Alice Bailey books. The first quote is, "The will to good is of more importance in this world cycle than the will to peace," which I find interesting, because the will to good is a much more active, has a much more active dynamic to it. And
it also doesn't have the idea of like peace and that which is not peace, perhaps, and we can see good as being really able to penetrate so many paradigms, right?
Right, and so this second quote elaborates on that some. It says, "Peace is not the goal for our race or time. This is a cycle of steadily growing activity with the aim in view of establishing right human relations." So again, that idea that we need to be actively working towards something that is possible, but that we're not yet experiencing.
And human being to human being, for sure.
Yes. And then the third one, this I think is particularly interesting. "If the will to peace is conditioning you, then you are still working on emotional levels."
Say that one again, Dorothy?
"If the will to peace is conditioning you, then you are still working on emotional levels."
Very nice.
And I take from that the idea is that the will to peace, which is a more passive dynamic, is trying to get, a sense of emotional comfort, of everything being okay, where we're not called on to do anything. We're just enjoying the state. And so that's the emotional component. But actually what we need to be doing is this active working towards establishing right human relations, treating each other with dignity and respect.
And goodwill, goodness. Doesn't that create stability? You can just feel it. Dignity and respect creates so much stability within our own person, within our relationships with others, and worldwide. Dorothy, we're at our first break. We're going to continue the conversation just after these words. Be right back.
In this day and age, if you don't reinvent yourself, you may never find balance, peace, and the sustainable life that is your birthright. Angela Watson Robertson, known as the Reinvention Warrior and the host of breakthrough radio show Masters of Reinvention, is here to help you reinvent every area of your life. Tune in and hear from the best in the personal transformation business and discover tips and tools for positive change. Live every month on Transformation Talk Radio.
Hey, did you know why they call the foundation? It's called the foundation because it completely eliminates your foundation for what you thought your reality was and creates a whole new space where you can have an entirely new reality that is foundationless. So from my point of view, they should call it the unfoundation or the foundationlessness. Either way, there's a big new global rewrite happening again because these guys cannot stop changing. There should be like a Change Anonymous that Gary and Dane go to. And it's happening April 28th to May 1st. You can find out about it at accessconsciousness.com/global foundation. It's happening in Paris. Go to Paris or do it online or find a pod near you. These are all the options you have. And what else is possible?
Are you traveling most of your day? Do you want to take Transformation Talk Radio with you anywhere you go? Well, guess what? There's an app for that. Just go to the App Store on your Apple device or the Google Play Store on your Android and search Transformation Talk Radio. Catch all of our live shows no matter where you are. Thanks for listening.
Calling all moms, it's time to awaken your vibrant, intuitive, loving self in every area of your life. Join host Debbie Pokornik as she shares thoughts, stories, and tools to help you stand in your power. Listen to Vibrant, Powerful Moms helping everyday women create extraordinary lives. Mondays at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. For more information about Debbie, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Welcome back, listeners. Dorothy and I are going to continue our conversation on balance and its relationship to stability. I love the quotes, Dorothy, that you brought forward in the first segment of the show, that I believe I'm getting this correctly, that the will to good is more important in this, was it this earth cycle or this cycle for
world cycle, this world cycle,
world cycle than the will to peace. And I just love words from the Tibetan or DK, the Master Dwakul, because there's so much you can receive vibrationally from the words. You know, when you think of that will to good and you realize that in striving for peace, there's the potential in a way of battle, you know, of that war, that peace is often too many times in this, in this human existence, achieved through war. And goodness, if we focus on goodness, you can just sense into it this sort of non-duality, this not us versus them and someone winning as a way to achieve peace, but really how can we, in an almost Aquarian round table way, all be a part, all strive for good, and give each other, a place at the table. Can we manage to do that? And in relation to what I brought up about this vibration of marching for peace, or of I think of I was once at a march before the Iraq war, and in New York City, that huge march for peace, and I found people to be so angry and so aggressive and so actually violent that I thought, this is just the same vibration. This is nearly the same mentality as a war mentality. And it was very much the peacekeepers versus the warmongers. And I thought, well, this is just an expression of war. So I can really, or at least of duality in that way. And I could feel that goodness was lacking in all of that, and had to leave quite early. And but it makes me think of the process of our shows, and that it's about discerning vibration. And that was last month in September. We talked about discernment, and that, in order for me to bring balance to that immediate situation, I had to discern what's going on here. What am I sensing? What am I picking up? What's the goodness? What can I learn from this? And what do I need in this moment? And I had to remove myself. And I learned quite a bit about what it is to bring peace about, first in oneself and then in the world, and being, a beacon for peace and for goodness. And it's discernment that led me to that sort of a very balanced approach to it. And what's interesting to me is next month, we're going to talk about forgiveness. And I look so forward to that, Dorothy. I love words that begin with for, F-O-R, forgiveness. And it's this idea of allowing forgiveness, allowing space, and forgiving is really allowing of the other. So once we come to a place of balance, we've talked so much in the last episode about multiple perspectives, allowing the diversity and the variety. We've really got to, understand forgiveness. We've got to understand this idea of allowing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the concept of homeostasis, which is one of the things that people equate with stability, because this week we're talking about balance as stability. And we can think of homeostasis as a relatively stable equilibrium between two interdependent elements. And so it's stability not because it's sameness with no change, but because it is an equilibrium.
Yeah, between interdependent elements. So you kind of also get this idea that they're both doing their own thing, but they're dependent upon each other. It's kind of like the physical body. I think of that, this idea of the nervous system needs to find a stable equilibrium with the digestive system, and that needs to be in equilibrium with the circulatory system. And this whole idea of this homeostasis, I always relate somehow to the physical body, and how do we bring about equilibrium. And often it's a balancing work and play, time for rest, time for work, balancing our diet. And even that, Dorothy, that, everybody's diet isn't the same, that how do we find balance even with our idea of what it is that we put in our body and how does our body receive it. And I think of hormone balances. So homeostasis is very important. Can you think of other examples where, what else do you create? How else do we create homeostasis like beyond the body?
Well, I'd like to give one though that is body based, because this is a concept that my mother wrote and talked a lot about, and it really helped me. And that is the balance between intake and output. And she was talking particularly about physical elimination, that if all you do is to eat, to take in, and you never eliminate, you will ultimately die. And so that the recognition that the release, that the letting go is as important as the taking in is something that has been very meaningful to me. And it's something that I think in everyday life, and certainly in spiritual life, we sometimes have difficulty with. We talk or we get kind of edgy about the idea that the will, as recognized in Ray 1, has a destructive element. But the reality is that you have to destroy, to eliminate, in order to make space for the new. So it's like, clearing the ground for a new crop. The trimming back of trees so that they can grow in a healthy way. There are many examples of this, but we oftentimes hold on. We think that our balance, our internal balance, comes from hanging on to the old, to the familiar.
And especially if we've somehow in our minds created balance from that familiar. We think it's all good, but as we know, right, change is the only consistent. I think of the breath, that if we hold our breath, too long, we die of carbon dioxide poisoning. We've got to take in the breath, and we've got to release the breath. And it also makes me think of work and play. It's not always doing, but it's sometimes also allowing the fruits of that doing, to allow that in, that we've got to take time. Got to take time for play.
Yeah. And, any kind of downtime, including sleep, including disconnecting from all of the social media input. We need the balance of having quiet time as well as engaged time.
Well, and isn't that just so huge? And we have to go to a break before too long in a couple of minutes, but I'd love to talk about that a little bit, right, is social media, because I think it's throwing us off of balance so much these days, and I'd love to go into that. But before that, you said something that was really sparked some interest for me, where you were talking about the will and spirituality. And I think some people, even in spiritual realms and in spiritual communities, this idea of constantly being in a spiritual state, and striving for enlightenment. And it becomes a very, I am striving for enlightenment. And I think both of our organizations focus on service, is really this idea of not only allowing spirituality and the divine to come into your life, but then how do I express it? How do I share it with the world? How do I create a balanced and harmonious and enlightened world around me in everyday practical terms? And I find that, that was really the goal of this radio show, is to show people that spirituality is very much an everyday thing. It's very much an everyday, it's in our choices, the choices we make for ourselves, and it's really our service. How do we align ourselves, but then it's horizontally, what do we do with it, and how do we express it in the world that creates that beautiful equilibrium, right?
Yeah, very well put.
Beautiful. Well, Dorothy, we're going to go to a break. And then when we come back, let's talk a little bit about social media. And if you're looking down at your smartphone all the time, you're going to trip on something sooner or later, right?
Right.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Amber Teal, founder of The Healthy Edge, is bringing you the hit show Healthy Edge Radio, living with power, passion, and purpose. Amber provides the support and tools necessary for you to finally release the weight and emotions that are hidden beneath the weight. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information on how you can take the next step with Amber, visit getthehealthyedge.com.
Hi, this is Laura Richer, host of On the Verge Radio. Sometimes Sometimes you hear encouraging messages like transform your life now, become empowered, create the life you crave, and it all seems overwhelming and you're not sure where to start. I'm here to tell you that self-improvement is not always fun and easy, but it is always worth it. The path to creating positive changes begins with releasing the things that have been holding you back. Then you can create a life that inspires you. I know this because I've done it. You can find out more about what I do by visiting my website, seattlehealinghypnosis.com. I look forward to supporting you on your journey.
Gifted intuitive healer and spiritual teacher Sarah Luce brings her unique style to the hit show Small Steps, Big Breakthrough Radio on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Tune in each month as Sarah turns reality on end and shows us how to experience expansive results with simple yet powerful steps. Expect an enlightening bend on what you currently believe is possible. For show details and upcoming topics, visit sarahluce.com. That's SARALOOS.com.
Tune in each month to Synergenetic Living Radio, where Rick and Grace Paris discuss the synergenetic way of life, what it means to truly change your perspective in life, what it means to take control of your life and manifest your true desires. For more information on Rick and Grace Paris and Synergenetic Living, check out synergeneticliving.com. Get clear on the life you desire and the current life you are creating and what is between the two. Synergenetic Living, living life loud.
Thrive is what we experience when our mind, body, and soul operate as one. When we thrive, we excel on all levels. Thrive is the mindset that matters. It is essential to our being. Have you ever found yourself looking for the instruction manual on how to thrive? You'll find everything you need to help you feel strong, powerful, and peaceful in your own body. So don't waste any more time. Visit thrivebyjen.com today.
Hello, welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. It's great to be back with you, and we're nearing the end of this wonderful discussion on balance. It's just been a delight, Dorothy. I've learned so much. As always, I appreciate your wisdom and our rich conversation and all the ideas that come to the forefront. Next month, listeners, we are going to talk about forgiveness. It's a very rich subject, so I hope you'll join us. Dorothy, the image, I don't even think we've said it once, but the image of balance always makes me think of spinning plates. My whole life I've loved that. I think it's because I'm a bit of a hyperactive individual, and the idea of like the image of plates on a stick and constantly running from one to the other, spinning the plate to keep them all in balance. I don't know that that's really such a wonderful way of living one's life, but it speaks a bit. It speaks a bit to the ways in which I find we're all a bit out of balance, and that's this idea of just too muchness all the time. Don't you think it's a bit of a thing we're all experiencing?
Well, I do, but before we go along with that, I just want to share with you my image, which is actually quite different, and I find that amusing. When I think of balance, what I think of is that Tai Chi exercise of joint hands, where if you've never done this, listeners, you stand facing somebody, put your feet, like your right foot alongside the other person's right foot, and the backs of your right hands together, and then try to push the other person off balance. And if instead of pushing directly forward, if instead you go around in a circular motion, you'll find that you can remain balanced even while someone is trying to push you off balance. So that's the image that comes to my mind, Steve.
Well, how optimistic. Mine's just about being. Well,
But getting back to what you were saying, I want to focus for a moment on multitasking.
Perfect.
Because that's part of, when we talk about engagement with the social media, that's part of what we say is happening is, we're doing many things at the same time. But in fact, what science tells us is that we don't actually multitask. What we do is we do things quickly in sequence. And so you can just think about how much energy that takes and how much attention that takes to be constantly looking back and forth or, engaging in different ways. While there was a time when multitasking was held up to be a very positive thing, and it may still be, the research shows us that there are some very definite negative consequences. One of them is that it interferes with future recall, impairs future recall because we're not attending fully to the present. So we don't absorb it in a way that allows us to recall it in the future. So there's a memory deficit that comes along with this.
Yeah. Very important. Go on.
Yeah.
Profound.
Another thing is that it undermines good performance because we're distracted. We don't recognize that we're distracted, but we are. And so I don't know about your community, but in my community, there are now campaigns by the police to stop distracted driving, and there are mounting penalties for texting or being on a cell phone or that kind of thing while you are driving, because at least here there are more deaths from that than from alcohol impairment.
Yeah, it is.
It's become.
Seems like everywhere you look when you're driving, somebody's on their cell phone. And now Apple, new operating system of Apple, senses that you are driving on your iPhone, and it actually will not allow for notifications while you're driving.
Oh, really?
But of course, you can disable that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is the distracted pedestrian. You know, I know as a driver, you know, I'm driving along and suddenly someone will step out in front of me. They're not paying any attention to traffic. They're glued to their phone, and so that's another problem. But the third research finding that I think is so important is that multitasking, this multiple media involvement, detracts from enjoyment in the moment. And I know, you know, there are jokes about this too, but I've witnessed people sitting near each other, texting each other instead of talking with each other, instead of interacting with each other. So we lose that human connection. We lose the richness that comes from the full interaction of nonverbal and verbal interconnection.
And just allowing the fullness of the moment and that which you are participating in to sink into every layer of your beingness. You know, it's just not happening. We're keeping it on this certain wavelength and brain wave, and that is all the further it gets. You know, we talked about heart, mind, and how they need to be connected. Well, you know, if we're really only connected in this very, you know, sort of very limited brainwave function, it's just not sinking into our being, you know, and our we do silent meditation retreats here, and people put away their cell phones. We even ask, you know, on a silent retreat, like, this is going to be easy. We're not going to put up a lot of rules, but you have no need to really respond to each other. So you can just really enjoy not only nature and food and your surroundings, but enjoy each other just in presence, you know, as a just enjoy each other as a vibrational being. But Dorothy,
and how easy is that for people?
Well, you know, it's not easy for them when they think about it. When their first notion is, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this, right? Because they're so not used to it. But you'd be amazed at how quickly they fall into presence when you create an environment. You know, we just say, put away your cell phones. We turn off the Wi-Fi and we say, listen, we're just going to be for a weekend. And they fall right into this natural rhythm and harmony, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show. And they fall right into it. And it's beautiful. And Dorothy, you know, I will just mention, it's so interesting, this study that I heard about at this conference in the last couple of weeks ago. I was at a conference in Montreal. And this is all brand new studies, and I am not a scientist. I don't even have the lingo down, but I find it to be so interesting. So Wi-Fi, which, think about it, it's everywhere. Everything is going Wi-Fi and Bluetooth everywhere. It's in every citywide. There's now Wi-Fi that's free citywide. Burlington, Vermont, Wi-Fi everywhere, which means it's everywhere in every room all around you, Wi-Fi's got this relationship to oxygen because it's at a very specific wavelength. So this is an energetic universe. Everything is vibrational. So molecules manifest and exist on certain vibrational wavelengths, it's frequencies. Well, this frequency of Wi-Fi is very close to the frequency at which oxygen can absorb that which is similar and around it. Again, I could be saying this really wrong, but let's just say that the electromagnetic waves emitted by Wi-Fi have this relationship to oxygen that changes it. And they're studying the effects that it has on our environment. And some are saying that they're thinking that that there's a relationship to it and fire. Because, right, oxygen feeds fire, that we could have hotter, longer lasting fires. Did we not just see that in California? They said the intensity of those fires was like nothing they've ever seen before. Well, imagine if that's something to be considered, Wi-Fi. They say that it has an effect on the oxygen in our brain, and that, oxygen, as we know, if you've ever gone to Colorado and you've been way up high, you've got lack of attention span, you're kind of confused, you feel lightheaded. Well, that's what we're all experiencing, right? It could be a bit of why we're all running around kind of ready to pass out all the time. And they're also looking into its effects on cancers because it sort of speeds things up. The oxygen molecule gets changed. So don't you find that so fascinating?
That is really interesting, and I had not heard of any of that science before. That's fascinating.
It is apparently brand new. And so it'll be certainly something that we will look into. And gosh, makes you realize when you say, how do people fall into silence? And you realize, oh, we turned off the Wi-Fi. Maybe we were like helping their brains, sort of work with its oxygen balance, and who knows. I also find it interesting that attention deficit disorder has got the letters ADD, which says add. Dorothy, don't you find that's interesting? I think maybe that's they wanted that, but because really it's about too muchness. Where really we need to subtract instead of adding. Mm-hmm. So it's like we just all these waves to our atmosphere with Wi-Fi now. We just keep adding. We really need to get, I find, to achieve balance to a point where we take away a little bit. We just and allow, huh? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would agree. Very, very fascinating stuff. It's this idea of allowing. We talked about that so much at this conference too, and especially in the paradigm of healing. It's not about, if you are an energy healer, it's not about you're willfully healing somebody. I am going to, with my intention, heal you. But it's about having an intention of well-being, which is something you've been mentioning a lot, this idea of well-being, and then allowing that vibration of wellness and well-being to be established in another person's energetic environment. And so that brings about healing. But it's not this forceful thing, but it's allowing. I like that. Mm-hmm. 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 So, Dorothy, we're going to go to a break in a minute. We're going to come back and talk a bit about how perhaps we might bring about balance and then sustain it. How do we keep that going in the world around us? Be interesting to talk a bit about our ecosystem and that idea of sustainability seems to have quite a bit to do with the green earth, the good green earth. So more on that. We'll be back in a minute.
Awareness is universal. Establishing a living awareness through meditation brings peaceful, healthy, and creative well-being into your everyday life. The practice of living awareness, Spirit Fire's own meditation practice, is built on this belief and is designed for every level of practitioner. Each year, Spirit Fire hosts living awareness meditation retreats that allow you to explore the practice in depth at our retreat center in beautiful Western Massachusetts. Introduce yourself to meditation and the practice at the Foundation's retreat. Attend, in silence, a silent meditation retreat focused on mindfulness, presence, and nature, or be engaged with the meditation sittings themselves at the Deepening Retreat. Start adding to your awareness and attend a meditation retreat designed to cultivate consciousness in your everyday life. For details on attending a Living Awareness meditation retreat, visit upcoming events at www.spiritfire.com.
What is a brilliant culture, and how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you align your culture with your business strategy for exceptional results. Looking for a culture that drives organizational excellence? Listen to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the second and fourth Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit culturalbrilliance.com.
Do you know how to achieve wellness in all areas of your life? Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. Signs of wellness are a capacity to love and ability to nurture, a sense of purpose, a good sense of humor and plenty of fun in your life, a concern for others and a respect for the environment, a conscious commitment to personal excellence, a sense of balance and integrated lifestyle, and capacity to cope with whatever life presents. Well, people enjoy their lives and want them to last as long as possible. That's why the wellness mindset usually accompanies other constructive, healthy lifestyle habits. By adopting a wellness mindset and behaviors like eating well, taking the right nutrition for the body, exercising, and saying affirmations are just a few things to structure a healthy system of values and beliefs. I will be your wellness coach to help you achieve a wellness lifestyle. Call us at 888-777-4232. That's 888-777-4232. And visit us at maryjanemack.com.
Tune in to the Psychic Professors Show, The Voices of Spirit Radio, with international medium and spirit artist Dr. Susan Barnes on Transformation Talk Radio, featuring a variety of spiritual topics such as psychic art, spiritualism, EVP, psychic development, and mediumship. This hit call-in show provides listeners with breakthrough wisdom to enliven and enlighten their lives. Visit spiritartgallery.net.
Tune in each Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. Dorothy and I are going to wrap up this conversation about balance. It's been a delightful month and really enjoyed each and every one of our episodes. Dorothy, you know, we talk about balance and we're going to talk about sustaining balance. It just makes me think of our ecosystem and makes me think about trees. Do you mind if I talk about trees for a minute?
Please do.
I know you like trees. Yeah, we had a really wonderful show this summer talking about sustainability and harm. You know, in our harmlessness show, we talked quite a bit about the Mother Earth and how to treat her well. And Louise Hay just passed on, and she was one of my heroes and such a source of inspiration and light in the world. She wrote, listeners, in case you don't know who Louise Hay is, she wrote, "You Can Heal Your Life." And she started Hay House Publishing and has just created this family tree, if you will, of so many incredible writers and contemplatives and healers and beautiful people striving for goodness in the world. And they've asked people to plant a tree in her name. And they're trying to get a tree planted, I'm sure hundreds of trees they'd like, but at least one tree in every country in the world. And I think that's just remarkable. And they've got a map in the States. If you plant a tree for Louise, you can, they're going to, put it on a big map that shows all the different trees. So I think it's a delightful idea, and because trees are really these balancers of our ecosystem. They're really amazing. I mean, they play this really important role in nourishing that which is above and that which is below. Anybody who's gone for a walk in the forest can feel the rejuvenation that the forest provides. We often tell people that, hey, three things to really engage the spirit: meditation, gratitude, and time in nature. And if you've walked in a forest, it feels amazing, but there's actual science behind that. It's because the trees actually purify the air. They absorb carbon dioxide and they release oxygen and in the synthesizing of their food. And they're literally called the lungs of the earth. There's a great statistics. For every 1 ton of timber created by tree growth, 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide are absorbed and 1 ton of oxygen is released. And that's pretty incredible if you think of what it would take to create a ton of oxygen. So, I mean, it's amazing. And they've got such an import. They're so important in regulating water. When water falls, it soaks into the ground. And then trees, deep-rooted, like old growth trees, they bring the water to the surface. And then that water is not only absorbed into the trees, brings it to the surface of the earth, which is very important, which allows other plants to grow. But the trees actually absorb it, and then they release it from their leaves, and water vapor is released into the atmosphere, and it's called transpiration. And so it also it purifies the water. So without the presence of trees and with these deep rooted trees, it really throws off. It throws off the circulation of water. Another cool statistics: 1 mature eucalyptus tree exhales through this transpiration 82 gallons of moisture every 24 hours. Can you imagine that? So you can think about it. If we really don't protect our forests, if we don't plant a tree for Louise Hay and allow that tree to grow, we really are disrupting the balance of water. And we see that as well, on the earth, this idea, these droughts that are happening and this horrible hurricanes. And you really realize there's this kind of imbalance of water. So I say plant a tree, Dorothy, in terms of sustaining balance on earth and creating stability. Everybody go out and plant a tree, if not for the earth, for Louise Hay. How's that sound?
That's great, Steve. Well, it's interesting when we think also about what's happening to our forests with the forest fires. And we've had, in British Columbia, there's been a whole dialogue about what stewardship means in relation to forests. A lot of people think that the best stewardship is to allow everything to grow. But reaching back to what we were talking about in terms of cycles, actually a healthy forest has a bit of a burn from time to time, burning off some of the smaller growth, some of the plant life that is not as conducive. And when you have when you allow those smaller fires to occur, you don't get these huge forest fires. British Columbia, Northern California have just been decimated by forest fires this year. So I think that's really interesting in terms of how we relate to other species, again, in this cycle of allowing for elimination as well as for growth.
Good balancing point there. And again, goodwill, right, Dorothy? It's not just goodwill amongst human beings. It's goodwill to this earth, which is the stage for our development and the stage for our, manifesting goodwill. It's really about the all.
Well, it is, and it's interesting that the Earth, scientists have acknowledged that the Earth is an intelligent ecosystem in itself. It is an entity in itself, and some countries like Bolivia have recognized Mother Earth as a non-human person and have put forth constitutional elements to protect it and have asked the United Nations to do the same. But there are mechanisms that the Earth uses to sustain balance. If you think about everything we put into the ocean, and yet the Earth is able to rebalance so that the salinity, the salt level, remains within a range that will sustain the sea life, the creatures that count on the sea. When in one of the big oil spills, I think along the southern coast of the United States, scientists discovered that the Earth was producing bacteria that actually ate the oil that was attached to the sand. Now, that process doesn't necessarily happen as quickly as we would like it to, but we tend to think that humans are the only ones that can create balance, but nature actually does as well. And I just want to remind our listeners of, what the research has shown about plant life that is still not really highlighted in either our public discussions or our policies, and that is that plants themselves are intelligent beings. This includes trees, but it includes other plants, that they are social beings, that they communicate chemically, which is not the modality that we communicate in, but they do communicate. They alert each other to danger. They defend each other. They defend themselves from danger. They recognize plants that are kin and will not cross-pollinate with them. And so we have Switzerland that has actually put in place laws to safeguard the rights of plants, including to not be modified, which I find very interesting.
Important. It's, they have relationship down. They have it down, and it's what we're all here to learn. So much wisdom, available from one another, from our environment, from Mother Earth, from plants. Really, really beautiful stuff. So, Dorothy, that's a wrap on our month on balance.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's been great. I look so forward to discussing forgiveness. What an important topic, right? What an important topic. A letting go, as here in the Northeast, the trees let go of their leaves. We're going to learn how to let go, right? And forgive. So, listeners, if you want to listen to some past shows, spiritfireradio.com. If you'd like to send us some comments or questions, you can do that at spiritfireradio@spiritfire.com. Dorothy, it's been a delight, and I look forward to a brand new month and a brand new adventure next week. How about you?
Me too.
Perfect. All right, listeners, we'll see you next week. It's been a delight. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for your weekly guide to purposeful living and practical spirituality. Join hosts Steve Kramer and Dorothy Riddle as they shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in your everyday life. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more, visit spiritfireradio.com.